That guy said 77 degrees with so much authority, he almost blew me out of my chair here. My gollies. I'll take it. 77. Good afternoon, everybody. That's a lovely number. A lovely day we have going. Stan Turner here. George Rumpel there. Hi, George.
Hi, Stan.
What are you doing wearing those earmuffs right now? It's 77 degrees out. What's that you got on your head?
I am listening to you.
No, George, you're supposed to say, I have new earphones.
Well, I do have new ones.
Muffin-like, huh? All the better to hear things, huh?
All the better to hear you with.
Well, you may regret that, pal.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank Louise Worley for sitting in last week. George, I was gone. You were here. I don't know. Did you notice? I was gone.
I did notice.
How was it?
And Louise did a great job.
I'm sure she did. I talked with her, and she had a ball. Thank you, George, for kind of shepherding her through, and it worked well. You had some live music. The man who wrote a beautiful song. Tell us about that. What's the song he wrote?
Where Have You Been?
Yeah. It's a poignant number, isn't it?
It
About
is,
Alzheimer's.
True.
And Kathy Mattea had a pretty good-sized hit with that one.
She had a rather big hit, yes.
She did indeed. So everything went well, and good to be back. I took a rare vacation, my boy. I mean, a lengthy one. By lengthy, I mean like 6 days.
Good for you.
It was December last time I tried that number. Went this time up to Gull Lake by Brainerd. And then up to the North Shore, I think two of the most beautiful places in this lovely state of ours. Gull Lake is looking good. Still has water in it, George.
I hope so.
It's wet, and it's beautiful. The jack pines are tall and stately, and the people are so, there's a difference. People, when they get away from the rut, everyday life, they mellow out a bit, and you really can tell the difference. These are the same people you see down here, but everybody's just cooler. They're nice. They're having fun. Relaxed, not worried about all the junk. And then the North Shore, beautiful, kind of headquartered in Duluth. I went up the shore. It's Highway 61, but it used to be called, I think, or popularly called, North Shore Drive, and I think that's lovelier. Highway 61. That's kind of crass. But North Shore Drive has a nice mellow sound to it. Went all the way up, almost to the Canadian border. Nanabuju, you know that place? You ever heard of that?
No, I do not.
That's a resort that a lot of money was put into it by Jack Dempsey and a guy named Babe Ruth way back.
I've heard of them.
You've heard of those boys.
Yes.
They heard of you too, George.
I doubt it.
And a resort, it never took off as they hoped it did, but they still maintained a small lodge up there. And the dining hall, George, is to behold. It is the roof is patterned after an upside-down canoe, and it's got the most beautiful colors and design. So very peaceful. Grand Marais is a fun place.
Been there. Angry
Trout Cafe, isn't that a great name?
Spinelli's Pizza.
Yeah, right. The fish were very kind, not angry at all. And Split Rock, always fun to visit the lighthouse. It was a great time, great weather, and a nice rest. So here we are. We're back here. Back here at the Hacienda at the Music of Your Life station. I climbed the staircase this morning, and it's still there.
Yes, it is.
All 500 steps. So nice to be back. Let's see. Our good friend Pam York will be along from the Minnesota Health Department shortly. The fair is still going on. More about that in a second, but I'm sure Pam will strike some notes for us on that. It's not all fatty foods and the rest. There are a lot of good tips out there about safety and about health, and we all need that stuff. So Pam will be checking in a little bit later toward the end of the hour. Tomorrow, I have the great good fortune to help MC the Minnesota Historical Society's History Day at the Fair. Inaugurated it last year. I'd like to think, just judging from the audience reaction, people, coming and going as they wander around the fair. They're going to do it again this year, and we'll commence activity tomorrow at 10 o'clock, go through 5 o'clock, and folks come on by. Carousel Park is where we'll be, George. Do you know the venue, do you?
I do.
Where is the venue, George?
Right next to the grandstand.
It is, it is.
Fact, not too far from where a certain radio station used to have its booth.
Would that be KLBB?
Would it be? It used to be, yes.
All right. Yeah, we're right by there's a ramp, a permanent, like a cement ramp that goes up to the grandstand. We're just, Carousel Park is on the, as you face the grandstand from the fairgrounds, be on the left or the west side of the ramp. We'll be there. A big stage, can't miss us. There'll be banners. Gonna have a ball there. We're gonna do all kinds of stuff. There'll be lumberjack songs, costume characters, multicultural music and dance. I'm going to be interviewing some of the costume characters from the past, and we've really got some fun stuff for you. But also, they want me to interview Fairchild and Fairborn. Do you know who those? guys are?
I know who they are, but I didn't know they spoke.
Well, they don't, and that's my challenge tomorrow. I was going to ask you, George, what am I going to do? I'm supposed to interview these two mascots, these gopher, buck-teethed gopher mascots, the uncle and the nephew, Fairchild and Fairborn, but they don't talk, so I can't wait to see what I'm going to do.
That will be interesting to see.
Yeah, come on, folks. We're going to have a lot of fun. The fair is fun. George, you got to get out there to the fair. Come on.
I'm going to try to tomorrow.
Don't try. Do it. It's a ball. Now, come on.
Okay.
Do it. Get out there. Well, we're going to move along. What do we have? 77 degrees.
That's
and
what he said.
Looking good, and possibility of a little don't worry about the sky. It's going to be a great day. I have always admired the work of archaeologists, George, the men and the women who unearth, who root out, who bring to the light of day ancient peoples and cultures that, well, would otherwise be lost. Think King Tut, will you? Mm-hmm. That exhibition is still on down at the Science Museum of Minnesota. The scientists who doggedly probed and dug and finally found the boy Pharaoh's burial vault in the Egyptian desert 3,300 years after Tut went to his rest. Well, there are many forms of archaeology, not all dealing with antiquity. Tom Osmond comes to mind. He's not antiquity, but Tom is not an archaeologist by the standard definition, but he sure can dig out elements of the past, the not-so-distant past, that tell us a lot about our popular culture. Tom is a local guy who has the most amazing talent for finding bits and pieces, sometimes big chunks, of local broadcast history. This noon, Tom Osmond has stopped by to tell us why he does this, how he does it, and he's going to share some of the broadcast goodies, the bonbons that he's unearthed from years past. Tom, good to have you back here. You've been on here with us before?
I have. It's great to be back.
Thank you. We had Tom Ryther, my former seatmate on Channel 5 News, the sports guy, and Barry Zevan on too. And you have always been good at unearthing these amazing pieces from the past. It seems that folks like moi, who are in the television news game, we did record some of our doings on the air, and for some odd reason we wanted to keep them. I don't know why, but I guess I'm glad we did, because you have found that not just me, but my colleagues on other stations too, keep our stuff on videotape, don't we?
You do, and
maybe
also
it's for legal reasons, I don't know.
And a lot of us were recording you also, sometimes inadvertently. Sometimes we didn't know we were recording you. You know, if that movie got done at 10 o'clock, we didn't know how to turn off the recorder. And luckily, a lot of us save those tapes, and now they're giving them to me. And this is, I don't do archaeology through shovels. I do it through VCRs, which sometimes they're dusty enough. You do have to kind of blow on them. You do have to kind of take the dust and debris off them. But we find some great stuff.
So what you do, of course, is you call people who did TV news, radio, whatever, on the broadcast around here in this market, and ask them, "Hey, do you have any tapes in your closet and under the bed, whatever?" And chances are they do. And I think, by and large, they turn them over to you. Or at least you can make copies, like you do with mine, and then they give them back.
Well, people that are in media in this town, we see you as our friends and family. We may not know you on a personal basis, but we see you sometimes frequently more than we might see our own relatives, sometimes our own parents or siblings sometimes, the way life gets. Sure. So to me, it's kind of like calling up an old friend or a relative you haven't seen in a while and saying, "Hey, what have you been up to?" And do you get those photos from our trip, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I'm actually asking for some video from the news 20 years ago or something else you've done.
Yeah. How far back do some of the Twin Cities broadcasts go that you have?
Some of them are about 40 years old now. Mm-hmm. Some of that stuff, when video first became, it was still novel in the broadcast world in the early 1970s, 1970 or so. But some of the promos and some of the video we have is from 70, 71.
Yeah. You brought along, by the way, before we dip into some of the goodies, so good to make copies. We're going to play little snippets for you this afternoon. This is fun stuff. How did you get the bug? How did you get interested, Tom?
Well, it's a few things, Stan. I've always been interested in history. I've always been interested in technology, and I've always been interested in preserving what I've done, and whether it be through journaling or through taking lots of pictures of what I've done. And it all kind of worked out well. I've been saving tapes since we had the VCR, and back in the early 80s, we had one of those big ones that looked like, as big as this radio console that had had levers and had
nobody could program those
No,
things.
we hit the record button and it usually recorded. Sometimes we had to forget to click play and record at the same time. So
but the timing, If you wanted to record something 2
Oh,
hours
never.
ahead, nobody could
No,
figure
no,
that
no.
out.
See-
Even you couldn't maybe figure that out.
No. We hit record, let it record for hours on end, and so not only did you get Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but you got the TV movie of the week that was on afterward, and then the news. So luckily, I have a lot of tapes like that, and I've been revisited them and saved them. I used to actually put collages together, just have them for the VCR. But then as digital technology came more mainstream, was able to digitize them and put them on YouTube or able to edit them, and it's a lot easier to watch a video on your computer because you're not putting the gears and the tape isn't being distorted or being worn out. So I've been digitizing as much of my own collection as I could, and found that a lot of people had these collections but they didn't want them, and I did want them. So I go to estate sales, I go to garage sales, I find these tapes, and they're usually $1 for my entire tape collection, and I sometimes fear that I might have harvested the whole metro of the good tapes, but I'm usually surprised every year, every few months, I find another great collection of something someone taped. And best part is sometimes people get very detailed. I taped this on January 15th, 1984 on this channel. It does the research for me. I don't have to go check the news and see what date that was. But so going through collections people have, and then also when I had enough stuff, I felt comfortable to go to people that were in the media, either current or past, and say, hey, I have a lot of stuff of you on my website or online. Would you like to add to my collection? And a lot of times they have boxes of tapes that don't even have a VCR, or the old pneumatic tape machines were these huge. They look like VCR tapes, but they were big. They were plastic and oftentimes unreliable, and no one had a 3/4 inch machine at home.
No. So they were almost like coal burning or wood burning operations, weren't they? Crazy.
Right.
Well, Tom, what are some of the more amazing finds that you've had in recent years? Things that you had no idea you'd find on video or audio.
Well, most people got VCRs in the mid-late 80s or 90s, and anything I find that's older than about 1983, I'm always surprised. And I found a couple collections. One was Tim Moreland and his dad. I think his name's Jim. He was a engineer at 3M, and they'd had a 3/4 inch pneumatic machine and taped everything. And when I did Bowling for Dollars Live, we talked about that last time, the Brian Lake Bowl a year and a half ago, emailed me and said, hey, I have a lot of pneumatic tapes. We haven't played them in 20 years. We don't want them. They're yours. And that's when I found some newscasts from 1975. I found some commercials. I found some more Bowling for Dollars. This is stuff that no one had a VCR. Everything you had was from memory. You didn't have it wasn't like DVR or TiVo, what people have now, and they record and watch it later. Either you watched it one time, you waited for the summer for them to replay it again, and a lot of times if it was live TV, you never did see it again. And that's whenever I find things in the 70s, it's always
fun. We got something not too far from that. It's 1980. George, I'm going to try track one here. I think I should be ready to go, and we'll set this up. Every TV station, the news wars, the rivalry between the local stations, it's not just peculiar to Minneapolis, St. Paul. You see it everywhere in the country. I happen to think, putting everything aside, that over the years, the Twin Cities have had pretty well served by some pretty good TV news operations. I don't watch them much anymore. I don't know. I'm not going to go into why I don't, but it's not sour grapes. It's just that I don't care for some of the content much. We used to, as you well know, when I was doing it, we had some features and some nonsense here and there, but most of it was pretty good meat and potatoes news, and we did it, and had a little fun along the way, and that's okay. But where it really got out of line was some of the promos that the TV news stations would do. We always wanted to sell the notion that all of us you see on the air are one big happy family, the big team, that sort of thing. And invariably, the voiceover guy, you'd see pictures of these people in these promotional announcements, it would be a guy over announcing, the big deep voice and that sort of thing. I think we might have an example for CCO TV for this is the 5 p.m. news promo from about 1980. Boy, that's a long time ago, George. Let's hear this.
A lot of technical know-how goes into the 5 p.m. report.
Underdissolved Delegate B, audio from remote tube, and tape.
Well, Pat, two of the biggest issues.
But then it's not every newscast that takes time to discuss and explain the news, as well as give it. Conversational, informal, spontaneous, and often unpredictable. The 5 p.m. report. Everything you want to hear discussed in the news, but no other newscast has time to ask.
Why, thank you so much, sir. I think I'll watch right away. What time? I can't wait till 5 o'clock to roll around. That voice, I know, that's Paul Stagg. Paul was an announcer on CCO radio for a long time. Very nice set of pipes, and does a nice job there. Little overselling. Tell us what would we have been seeing there?
What you'd be seeing is a lot of people, news copy just coming straight from the newsroom onto the desk, microphone right there.
You could almost see the sweat. Breaking news, breaking sweat. Is that right? Huh?
And it's also and they sell spontaneous and informal.
Yeah,
there's a spot in that commercial. If you go to tcmedianow.com, you can see this. There's Mike Fairborn's on there, and they're throwing snowflakes on him. So that's the spontaneous, wacky part of the commercial. I don't recall seeing that when I watched it, but
okay. What do we have next here? CCO promo. We've got mentioning Miles Moore and Moore. Well, we all remember Pat Miles and Dave Moore. There was another Moore back in 1980 years ago. You young whippersnapper. Yeah.
Yep, there were two more as well. We had Dave Moore, and then we had Doug Moore. And Doug Moore was brought into Channel 4 to compete with another station in town. I think that you might remember what that station was. That was Channel 5. Yeah,
Chanel number 5.
Yeah.
It has kind of a perfumey smell about it, Chanel 5. Yeah, I remember that. Was he brought in to compete with us?
He was brought in.
How did he do, Tom?
Well, he was around about 5 years.
Okay. Let's hear this promo for the CCO gang in 1980.
Dave Moore, warm, inspirational, the Twin Cities' most recognized and respected anchorman. Pat Miles, perceptive, intelligent, a top-notch Twin City journalist. Doug Moore, confident, professional, with an involvement in the community that goes beyond his job as anchor.
Good evening, Dr. Strong.
And there's only one place you can find this exceptional news team. Cronkite and Company, only on Channel 4.
Yes, kind,
television,
likes little children, does not smoke in public.
Well, and I think in that one, Dave is walking through a high school, waving to high school kids.
He wasn't there to get his diploma, was he?
I don't know. I think he might have had that.
I think he did. I think he did.
That,
David was a wonderful guy. He really was. We'll hear more from him. So that's the kind of shtick we used to do. What's this? You've got something. Is this the Donaldsons? This is George. This is a commercial that you've unearthed for us. Track 3. This is from 19.
This is a commercial they aired every year. Every time they had the Saturday night sale at Donaldson's, they aired the snake. And I think even years after the Chevy Chase falling down shtick, might have worn off, they still aired the commercial.
Donaldson's. This is a department store that at one time tried to rival Dayton's. I don't think they ever quite made it, but they were around for a long time. Not around anymore. Let's hear this. This was a TV commercial? Mm-hmm. Okay, George.
Live from Donaldson's, it's Saturday night! With 15% savings on every regular and sale-priced item. A sale so extraordinary we've made it after hours. 15% savings on men's fashions, women's fashions, linens, housewares, everything in the store. It's live Saturday night from 5 to 11 p.m. at all Donaldson's.
Yeah, folks, that could be one of the reasons Donaldson's is not in business anymore. What do you think? Huh?
Paid a lot for that ad for many years.
Yeah, it ran almost, 10, 11 years? Huh?
Yeah.
My God, that's a shame. Well, anyway, that's interesting. That's something we don't have to hear anymore, right? Oh, my. Where'd you get that one, by the way?
Actually, I found that on multiple tapes because they played it so many times over the years. I found it in tapes dating back from '79 and as late as '87.
George, you can get track 6 lined up if you would. In the meantime, Tom, you've got your day job is with a fledgling, struggling little firm called Target.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Yes.
Okay, and that has nothing to do with this we're talking about, except it keeps you going with this thing. Your company here your outfit is called TC Media Now.
TC Media Now, so www.tcmedianow.com.
And can we jump on the web and look at your stuff?
I encourage it.
Right. What will we see? Things we're hearing right now, huh?
Right now, all these commercials we have. I try to put time travel has been found to be physically not impossible, but I try to do the next best thing is be able to go through the computer and be able to watch the news or watch a commercial or watch some event as it was happening. So I try to keep all the original commercials, all the original content or context right there. Okay. This year was the 25th anniversary of the Fribley tornado over, and I did a piece on for MinPost, and so right now on the front page of the tcmedianow.com, is the actual broadcast from Channel 11 when they broadcast live a tornado traveling through Brooklyn Park and Fridley, and Paul Douglas gave some very compelling play-by-play of what was happening.
That footage went viral. It went all over the world, and I thought at the time, well, this is beyond amazing. But those guys up in the helicopter, come on! I mean, no, not me. I've crashed in a helicopter, and I don't want to try even close to that before.
Didn't want to go tornado chasing in the chopper.
In the chopper, yeah. Well, anyway, folks, don't try this at home. These people are either professionals or crazy. We're not sure which.
Well, what I understand that the FAA didn't like that too well, but I think that the awards that Channel 11 were able to put in their lobby more than made up for any challenges they had with the.
Well, you've got something here, KSTP News. I guess I'm at the anchor desk. This is, I must have been 10 years old. This is 1982, February. Can you set this up? I think this is not self-serving here. This is the content of the newscast. I think
this is the intro, and it was one of those marches where, when you think the snow had just melted away, we were done, and 82 was a bad winter.
It was,
but
82.
the winter just kept on going, and this is you warning all of us not to get too comfortable with spring because. It's gonna be a blizzard.
I'm known to rant on this show, usually at the top of the show every Saturday about the weather. I just, people say, why don't you get out of here then? And we're sick of hearing you complain all the time. I can't get out of here. I'm stuck. All my friends are here. I don't want to leave.
I'm right there with you.
George, everybody, all of you. And anyway, let's go back in time, George. Let's take a listen to the ranter here.
Channel 5, KSTP-TV, St. Paul, Minneapolis.
Folks, go out and get a good look at your driveways and the curbs on your street. Savor the sight of that beautiful asphalt, because it might be a while before you see all that stuff again. Dennis Felkin tells us there's a storm heading our way, and it looks like a big storm heading our way. No doubt about it. This winter stuff is getting old. Tonight, we're going to ask some of the hardier types, that's anybody who hasn't left town yet, how they are coping with it. And we're going to take you back to the scene of that $5-alarm $1 million fire at downtown St. Paul last night. Almost 100 firefighters were called out for that. And Arthur Ballot will check in. He goes all out, in fact, to bring us a review of the latest spy thriller, The Amateur. We'll have that and more coming up in just a moment on Eyewitness News at 5.
So that's, boy, some things sound a lot alike, don't they? Huh? Bad weather, bad news. Man.
We could rerun this probably this year and probably...
Nobody know the difference, huh? Boy, and this one really got me here. Again, on-air promotions. This one came from Channel 5, thanks to you. And this was a promotion for Mr. Weather.
Mr. Weather.
Mr. Felkin, would it be? Dennis Felkin. Dennis pops up. In fact, I think during the Hurricane Irene he popped up. He's in Florida now, right? He's out at the National Hurricane Center.
Yeah, NOAA. Yeah, he's a public relations officer.
National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and he's doing very well. He was up here with his wife last March, and I tried to hook up with him, and I didn't make it. But anyway, Dennis is doing very well. But he was promoted. He was our Channel 5 lead meteorologist, on-air weather guy back then. And so he was the subject of a promotion, right?
Well, a little background behind that. There was some question at that particular station that there was a lot of different faces kind of coming in and out. But one of the constant strong parts of the Channel 5 brand was weather. So the consultants at the time said, let's really play up weather and let's do a whole weather promotion all year.
All right. Now, folks, I want to call your attention to the voice behind the promotion. This is a guy, I remember Tom, he used to be sitting upstairs in the KSTP building. We were in TV down below, and FM was upstairs. And we used to call him the Cat Man. Let's play this and see if you can name that voice.
You know him as Dennis Felkin, TV meteorologist for Eyewitness News. But by day, our friendly meteorologist becomes champion of the young and young at heart because he's Mr. Weather.
Hi, kids.
Hi, Mr. Weather. If your school or social organization would like a visit from Mr. Weather just right, Mr. Weather, KSTP TV, 3415 University Avenue, St. Paul, Minnesota.
Together, we'll make learning fun, and that's team spirit.
Makes me want to jump right on board that weather bandwagon with Mr. Weather and Tom Bernard doing the voiceover there.
He did okay, didn't he, Tom Bernard?
He did. I think he
okay.
did. I think I've heard of him. He's still around, isn't he?
Yeah, I think
I haven't seen him in any bread lines lately. No, he's doing great. So Tommy's a great guy.
Well,
the Cat Man, he was known as.
And Mr. Weather, who's Dennis, he's walking through a school, just kind of, just kind of walking, waving to kids and waving to teachers.
Looks like a vagrant. They call the police and take him out of there.
Wouldn't happen today.
Yeah, he'd have to go through metal detectors, wouldn't he? Wow. We're going to take a break here. Tom Osmond with us. We're reliving, as you can tell, some fun moments from broadcasts past. We'll be right back.
Nestled in the quaint town of Montemita, minutes from St. Paul, lies the Hangar Room Bar and Restaurant. Only the freshest local ingredients are chosen by Executive Chef Matt Hinman and his staff to create the Hangar Room's unique brand of contemporary American cuisine. Every sip you sip and bite you eat is carefully thought through with uncompromising standards. Every menu selection is exquisitely prepared, so your dining experience will be second to none. Choose from locally raised pork, fresh fish, or seafood, tender, flavorful steaks dry-aged right on the premises. Imagine your steak dry-aged for more than a month, just kissing the grill ever so briefly. With the Hangar Room's vast array of craft beers, scotch, whiskeys, and bourbon, you'll find the perfect accompaniment to your special meal. For lunch, dinner, or Sunday brunch, it's an experience you can't forget. The Hangar Room, just east of White Bear Lake in Montemita. Online at thehangarroom.com.
Bunyan County has the best fare in the land.
Oh, hi, I'm Gunnar Johnson.
And I'm Clara Johnson.
We're doing this show called A Don't Hug Me County Fair.
Yeah, and the big question is, who's going to win Miss Walleye Queen?
If I could win Miss Walleye Queen, I will tell you what I did.
When you need to share your feelings, get a card.
Those are just some of the songs you'll hear in a Don't Hug Me County Fair, playing September 8th through October 16th at Cabaret Theater at Camp Bar, downtown St. Paul. For tickets, call 651-290-2290 or online at don'thugme.com.
I'm a Bunyan woman.
Who's better catching fish? I'm better catching fish.
We sure hope you come to A Don't Hug Me County Fair.
Gunnar, tell me you love me.
Oh, come on, Clara. I told you I loved you when we got married. If anything changes, I'll let you know.
She's our Walleye Queen.
Hi, I'm not Mr. Weather. I'm Mr. News or somebody. Hi, welcome back. Stan Turner here. We're having fun looking back, listening back to broadcasts in the Twin Cities, radio and TV from years ago with Tom Osmond, I like to call him, an audio-video archaeologist. This guy's got a shovel, that you wouldn't believe. He can dig the stuff out, Tom.
The video shovel.
It is wonderful. You do good work, my boy. We should kind of put out the word that you're a nonprofit. You're just doing this for the arts, for the culture, and you're always in need of, it's got to be difficult maintaining these old machines that can play these old tapes. Some are reel-to-reel, 3/4 inch. Some of you who are into this stuff know that, and they break. And where do you go to fix them?
I usually have to find more. It's easier to find more equipment than be able to fix them. Unfortunately, there is some places in the Midwest, hours and hours away, that do fix them. So I look. If you have old broadcast equipment, if you have players, if you have even VCRs, beta machines, and you don't want it anymore, there is a place that you can send it that will be reused. That's tcmedianow.com in my studio.
Say that slower, my boy.
tcmedianow.com. There is a contact link on my website. You can contact me through there, or you can even just email me at tom@tcmedianow.com.
Okay, TC Media Now. Yeah, and you'll consider stuff that you can't get anymore.
And tapes too. If you have some tapes that are about 20 years old or older, send me an email or let me know on the website. I'd love to take a look at what you have.
Okay, that can be news or non-news.
News, non-news.
Local programming.
Local programming. Yeah. If you tape it off HBO, I probably don't want it. But if it's anything that was taped off TV.
Okay. All right. Well, I had the good fortune in 1987. I was probably, George, 11 years old, something like that. Ruth Spencer, my anchor mate at Channel 5 at the time. The time being the World Series win. The Twins beat the Cardinals, was it? Was that the boy, I better be right on that.
That's correct.
Because we went to St. Louis, so I'd better remember the Cardinals. And we were there, of course, at the Metrodome the night that the Twins clinched. Do you remember the game? Weren't there some wasn't there a Grand Slam homer or something? I can't remember. It was such pandemonium in there, and it was great. And we had, obviously... We were an ABC affiliate, Channel 5 was, so we were doing our newscasts, our news cut-ins, and during the everybody in the world had to be in this area, had to be watching that newscast that night. And Ruth and I still hear from people who say, we taped that Twins win, and you guys are on it. And before I can say I'm sorry, they say, no, it's kind of fun to listen to some of the news stuff. You brought a little clip along. I think, is this after the Twins won the game that night?
Immediately after the credits, after the Twins were declared the winners, after it's done, this is what rolled in right afterwards. You still did a newscast about 11:15, 11:30 at night. You still did a full hour of news.
I don't think we had voices left by that time because we were screaming inside the booth, cheering on the Twins down below. It was one of the most exciting games you could imagine. Here's a bit of the flavor, George.
Minnesota's News Channel 5. Channel 5, Minnesota's News Channel, and the Minnesota Twins Channel for the 1987 World Series.
Well, there it is, still aglow from all the excitement under its white top tonight. The Metrodome, the lights shine, of course, for the Twins players, but they shine for all the fans who believe in this team, believed in them through the lean years, through some hard times, some heartbreaks, some near triumphs. But by golly, they deserve to win it all tonight. Good evening, everybody. Very happy, Ruth Spencer. Happy, that's an understatement. Ecstatic couple of people up here like you are. Welcome to Twins Fever 87. We did it. My voice is leaving, and I don't care.
Me too. Let's go right down to the field of Mark Curtis to find out more about this. What's going on now, Mark?
Thanks very much, Ruth. We're standing by with Gene Larkin, and this has got to
That's
be
it. Boy, huh? I'm losing my voice, and I don't care. That's great.
Found that tape from many different people have actually had that game taped and the news taped, because, again, no one knew how to turn the VCR off. But there's some great interviews with Twins players, Kirby and Ken Herbeck and a lot of other guys in that video.
Oh, man. What a deal. Let's fast forward. That was 87. Let's go back a couple of years. George, track 18, sir, if you could. This is what we call on-air queuing here, but it works better that way. Dave Moore, an institution, a wonderful man. He's gone. He passed away in the late 90s, did he?
1998.
And he did his farewell newscasts in 1985 after many, many years, about 3 decades out there. David used to tell a story. We used to ask him, how did you get into this business? He said, I was walking down 9th Street one day in Minneapolis, and I needed a men's room, and I walked into the first available building, and before I knew it, I was hired. Whatever it was, it worked. David was an actor by academic training at the U of M. He was in theater and was very good. And David never said he was a journalist. He said, I'm an actor, basically. I'm interested in current events, and he never made any pretense about that. I don't think he ever got out on the street and covered everything. He was certainly capable of doing it. A very bright man, articulate man, and beloved by so many people. And believe me, he was tough to go up against on the air.
And integrity. I mean, in the integrity that he had for his program and for his content. So, not a journalist by trade, but developed the integrity and the skill of a journalist over many years of.
He had the kind of trust that Walter Cronkite developed on CBS for many years, and David was not always at the top of the ratings, and that's inevitable. You're not going to stay up there forever if you do attain that height. But to his everlasting credit, we're going to share, thanks to Tom Osmond, share with you an excerpt from Dave's valedictory, one of his swan songs, as he was about to give up the 10 o'clock anchor chair on Channel 4. And what he does here, what you're going to hear, I think George will play the whole thing because it's, you might call it a bit of a rant, but what it is a catharsis about how ratings and consultants have their hands on the necks of TV news operations, especially. And David used the opportunity that night back in 1985 to kind of unload a bit, and here's part of it.
Look, each time I try to make this point, I am charged with false modesty, but this is a point I should have made last Tuesday night, but I was in such a state of emotional upheave, I did not have the wherewithal to put it all together. But the point is this: one does not survive 28 years at this news desk on one's talents alone. He or she has to have help from two sources. You have to have a supportive employer, and you have to have a loyal audience. My longevity, I'm here to tell you, is the result of having been blessed with both. I have survived all these years in this high transcendency business because my employers have refused to measure my worth by the fallacious standards of the so-called audience rating system. In my view, one of social history's classic shams, a hoax of such insidious dimension as to produce this circumstance in our community. A newscaster who has proved her skill and credibility beyond all doubt is suddenly instructed to alter her personality to accommodate the style of her co-worker and the whims of her audience, with which her employer pretends familiarity. I don't think we should disparage that this very qualified newscaster's compliance with the order, but rather be outraged that her employer had the temerity and the gracelessness to even suggest it. It is a loathsome work condition that underscores my own good fortune. Under two managements, over these 28, 35 years, at no time has any executive here so much as hinted that my job might be at stake because of failing ratings. At no time have I been warned to lay off of this or take it easy on that. What employer, what manager of what television station you know would allow his newscaster to get away with all that silly stuff you saw an hour ago? Employers such as mine are what keep audiences such as you. And I thank God, I tell you, for the both of you. Now, the other point is, we're running over, folks. Do not worry about the state of this news program. Columbia, DuPont, and Peabody people have already recognized Don Shelby as an exceptionally gifted...
Okay, on and on it goes. Boy, talk about an event, huh? How about that, Tom?
Well, and what station today would allow someone to go on the air and
not
do
a one. It'd be tarred and feathered and find me the railroad tracks and out you go.
And
but
Dave,
a lot of people, I could just almost imagine listening to that just there. And when it happened, when he said it in '85 and listening to it right now are nodding, yeah. I could go on about this, but I'm not. But I think those of you who have watched TV news and watched the disappearing act over the years in the anchor chair know full well what David's talking about.
Well, and Dave was number one. He was number two. I mean, he bounced around a little bit, and he left number one. He was number two for a long time, and to the station's credit, they didn't yank him off.
No, that's right.
Things went number two.
Exactly right. So, well, George, let's start. Why don't you go ahead and start playing track 20 right here, if you would, and I'll just do a little voice over here as we set this up, because we're going to hear a voice we should hear again of a very wonderful gentleman and a man who was really a real shining example of what a broadcaster should be, and that's Gil Amundsen, who many years was on WTCN, Channel 11, now known as CARE, the Care Bears. This was TCN back then. Gil did a variety of jobs around the station, not the least of which was news anchor.
News director.
News director, and somewhere along the line here, I think we're going to hear his voice. But is that rolling? Yeah, George. But I hope we can hear just a bit of Gil, because you will recognize those nice tones. And I think I met him a couple times. I don't know if you ever had a chance.
Unfortunately, I did not. I met his kids, though.
Yeah. So you've approached his family, and they've shared some tapes of his with you, too, and that's probably the source of what we're going to hear. Are we? This is Gil.
Astronaut Buzz Aldrin admits he's an alcoholic. Minneapolis police break up a juvenile burglary ring. We continue with our series on the possibility of life in outer space. The verdict came in early this evening in the River Villa case. Co-defendants Bertram Strimling and George Hedlund were found guilty of all...
There's our buddy Gil Amundsen, the late and the great, and I think he will find his way into the Minnesota Broadcasters Hall of Fame here one of these years.
I think it's going to happen.
He certainly deserves to be in there. So, next up, George, we'll do track, let's see here. Let's do 21, if we may. This is yours truly again. It's not because I'm on the newscast, but it's the content that's so interesting. I was listening to these cuts last night that you supplied, Tom Osmond. I was struck by some things change and some things don't change at all in the content. George, we're set to go. Let's listen to the content of the newscast. Doesn't matter who the newscaster is.
Eyewitness News, the Northwest's most complete, comprehensive, and up-to-the-minute coverage, with weatherman Roy Findon, sportscaster Bob Bruce, and anchorman Stan Turner.
Good evening, everyone. Mother Nature, an angry Mother Nature, is making much of the big news this Saturday evening. California, Arizona, and New England states have all been hit hard by floods, either floods, heavy rain, or snow. Also in the news tonight, reports out of Afghanistan that newly installed President Karmal may be on his way out. Reports from Greece, France, and Iran as word continues to circulate that an agreement to release the hostages is near. And from our own University of Minnesota, research on butterflies that may help human beings live longer.
I don't think those butterflies ever came through for us, did they? I don't know, Tom.
This was last week, wasn't it?
Iran, France, Greece, Afghanistan, the wheel goes round and round and round. What was that from? 1986, 80? Was it 80? Mm-hmm. Oh, heck, I was only 10 years
during
old.
During the Olympics, actually.
What a precocious guy, I tell you. Well, once in a while, there's some moments in broadcast history, and this will be track 22, George, that Mr. Ron Majors, a guy I worked with. This is it 20? Did I have that wrong? Is it 22? It's 22. Majors, the older brother of Paul Majors, but Ron preceded Paul into the market here on Channel 5. Ron was, and I worked with him at the time. And from time to time, Ron would allow us to how he didn't care much for some of the content that came down from the network. Was this ABC?
ABC, during ABC's hot period, you had Charlie's Angels, you got Three's Company, you got think of that kind of entertainment that they were.
This is the 80s, I would guess?
This is late 70s.
Late 70s.
79,
okay.
I think.
70s.
Yeah.
Well, George, I was 8 years old at that time. But Majors was doing what we call a news cut-in, a promo, promoting what's coming up on the 10 o'clock news that night. So this would be prime time in the evening on Channel 5 live, and he's coming off, what was the show?
Okay, it was Playboy's Roller Disco Pajama Party, hosted by Richard Dawson.
Now, give us the visual here. What are we seeing? Are these babes on roller skates, or what do we have?
I have actually the whole episode on tape.
It's a family show time.
Well,
okay.
I guess the best thing you can say is think of Playboy bunnies on skates, and then Richard Dawson and Hugh Hefner in smoking jackets and pipes. That's the best setup I can say before this cut-in.
But the bunnies on skates and Majors, they cut from that to Majors' news promo, and this is kind of what happened, George.
Bronco cheerleader.
I want to assure you that this is a local news cutting. We have nothing whatsoever to do with the Playboy Roller Disco Pajama Party. There is more trouble in Iran. The crisis continues there. We have a story of a Thanksgiving reunion. 2 boys in Afton, 2 small Vietnamese boys, have finally been reunited with their mother, father, brothers and sisters, and an aunt and uncle after 4 years of separation. We'll have that story and more for you. Those of you who've turned off your television sets in disgust, wait about another half hour. We'll be back with the news.
I don't think I could have gotten by with that. Majors could get by with that stuff, but I can't disagree with what he was saying there. Great moments in broadcasting, Tom Osmond, huh?
And these are things you discover in the release. Someone had that on tape from Channel 5, so would you be interested in that? I watch the tape, and there I find things like that. That's the best part about this.
Tom, may I ask you how young are you? How old are you?
I'm 31 years old.
31. George? Isn't that disgusting?
I don't remember that.
Tom, you run around for a lot of this stuff, obviously, but as you look at the tapes and compare to what you see passing for television news today, why don't you compare, and this is like a college exam, compare and contrast.
Well, if you take news, for instance, and news had to be a lot of things to a lot of people, and right now it doesn't need to be that way. Right now, because audiences are so segmented, and also it's right now the youth culture is what seems to dominate right now. Local news, or everything's fast, and we're so short attention span right now that we don't have patience. We have a flipper right now. We'll go to another 80 channels if we have to, and in the 80s, you had a dial TV, and you actually had to get up and go over there and change. And who wants to do that? Who wants to go up and change the dial to the TV? And I think that like newspapers, radio, and anything else, this was a source. You had 3 broadcasts a night. This is where you got your information on weather. You didn't go online and see what the weather's going to be on your iPhone or whatnot. This was your opportunity. So you had to be a lot of things, a lot of different people. You had to be a community steward. You had to, and I think there was more of a connection, I think, between the people that were in news to people that were the viewer. I think right now, if I try to watch the local news once in a while. Much like you, Stan, I don't watch it a lot because I read a lot of my news online or I read radio and that. But if you ask me who's on each station, I don't know if I could tell you right now. 10, 15 years ago, I probably could tell you who's on each station.
I think that's a very savvy description you give there. Thank you. Tom Osmond, we've run out of time. This is a ball. We'll have you back from time to time, okay? We like to lure you down here. Bring along some more of those goodies, those broadcast memories. Tom Osmond, TC Media Now. If you got some old video contraptions you don't want anymore and some local television stuff on tape, he'd like to hear from you, okay?
Thanks, John.
Tom, thank you so much. We'll be back. Pam York and All About Your Health right after this.